Chapter 62. Time to die. Dr. Wheelo's huge mechanical claw, pointed straight at the group of heroes, began to hum with power. Get ready. Tien yelled, raising his hands. Can't guarantee everyone will dodge that, gotta deflect it. 3-bem. His ki beam shot forwards, colliding in midair with Dr. Wheelo's high-power laser. He felt the immense pressure crush down on his body as his attack was almost instantly forced back by the stronger force. Double Kamehameha? Thinking quickly, Krillin and Yamcha had formed their hands into a large circle and combined their ki to produce a single, stronger beam. It joined Tien's tri-beam, crashing head-on into Wheelo's attack and combining their force. It's not enough. Yamcha realized. We have to use the Kaioken. No good. Tien said grimly. At this point, we wouldn't be able to sustain it for longer than a few seconds, or raise our powers high enough to completely stop that attack in that short period of time. Just as the oncoming attack was beginning to gain momentum, their ki blasts starting to roll off it like waves off a ship's bow, Launch leapt up from beneath them, darting towards Wheelo's robot exoskeleton while he was distracted. Firing up her Kaioken aura, she pointed a finger at him, yellow ki gathering around it. Dodon Ray Haya. The Dodon Ray struck Wheelo a glancing blow on his transparent brain capsule, throwing him off balance. His beam lurched upwards, lancing away harmlessly into the air, and Tien, Krillin and Yamcha's combined power hit him full force, blasting him away before he could raise his defenses. Tien fell backwards into a sitting position. Whoa, thanks again, Launch, but be careful from now on, I don't think he'll overlook you again. He realized Nail hadn't taken part in the attack. Nail? You okay? In a manner of speaking. The warrior Namekian was standing protectively in front of Dend and Mr. Popo. I didn't have enough energy left to help you, so I decided to shield them in case you failed. Thankfully, it didn't come to that. He turned to Dend. Why did you come here? To warn you. Dend pointed to Dr. Wheelo's receding form. I observed you fighting, you thought you'd won. I tried to warn you Dr. Wheelo himself was a serious threat. But it looks like I was too late. A thought struck him. Hey, quickly. Everyone come here, I'll heal you, he shouted. Hurry, before he recovers? Right. We're in no condition to fight him like this. Tien ran over to Dend, the others following close behind, and the Earth's Guardian worked his restorative magic on each of them in turn. Thanks, Dend. I don't know what we'd have done if you hadn't shown up. We'd better go? Mr. Popo said, nudging his young charge. He appears to be returning. We can't risk you and the Dragon Balls being destroyed in the line of fire. Right. Dend stepped onto the genie's enchanted carpet. Good luck, you guys. The two flickered out of sight, magically returning to the lookout in an instant. Okay. Yamcha looked over towards the approaching robot scientist. You guys ready? As we'll ever be, Launch replied. Let's do it. Dr. Wheelo powered his way through the frigid air towards the ragged group that composed his enemies. How did things get so out of control? Everything's been destroyed because of these interlopers. He saw them now, 5 tiny dots soaring towards him. He increased power to his leg thrusters, making straight for them. The Earth's fighters scattered to avoid his charge. Damn you all. He growled. Everything was going perfectly and you had to interfere. You've ruined everything. Well, excuse me for saving the world, Krillin grumbled, wheeling around to attack. A Kienzan flew out from his outstretched hand, slicing through one of the spiked ridges on Wheelo's back as he banked left to avoid it. Interesting turn of phrase, but you haven't won yet. Wheelo swung an arm around, smashing Krillin into an icy peak, but just as he was doing so, Nail shoulder barged him from behind, knocking him forwards. Tien and Launch rose up from beneath him as he swerved around, both crashing into him feet first and bowling him over. The gigantic robot collapsed back into the water below, floundering around with all 4 limbs flailing. For all the power of his mechanical body, Dr. Wheelo was no fighter, and his skill disadvantage was starting to become painfully clear to him. Still, he thought, at least their attacks aren't having much effect. It's hard to stop them hitting me, but my armor's too tough for it to make much of a difference. I'll wear them down eventually. He rose from the water. Are we done playing? Have you realized yet how futile your efforts are? You haven't even made a dent. Krillin jumped back up to join the others in the air. Oh, we're done playing, all right. Let's just go all out straight off and get this done, guys. Sounds good to me. Nail quickly powered up to maximum as the humans each raised their Kaioken to its current highest level. Hiya? He fired a 2-handed energy wave straight at Wheelo as the rest of the fighters swerved around to attack the mad scientist's flanks. Such a huge power increase in such a short time. Wheelo observed. Activating reserve power supply. His aura grew even larger, drowning out their tiny seeming ki with its immensity. I didn't want to use this body's full power, it's still untested, but you're forcing my hand, it seems. He smacked Nail's blast out of the way, swiveling to face the other 4. They twisted and soared towards him, leaving trails of burning air in their wake. Wheelo's swiping claws knocked Launch out of the air. Yamcha, changing tactics and coming in from behind, was struck full force by the robot's snake-like tail. Krillin overshot his target slightly and was sent flying as Wheelo barged into him. Tien, however, made it through the doctor's myriad counterattacks, unleashing a barrage of punches and kicks that scratched and dented Wheelo's armored carapace. There's more where that came from, tri-beam. HAA! The close-range blast was devastatingly effective, blasting Wheelo half a mile back, carving a huge chasm into the frozen ground. Tien didn't relent for a second, firing a whole volley of energy-draining tri-beams. HAA! Ra! YA! As each one hammered home, he felt his strength leaving him. Too fast, I'm losing power too fast. I can't keep up an intense attack like the tri-beam with this level of Kaioshin power. He gritted his teeth, trying to block out the pain. No, I have to keep going. He's down but not out. The energy beams became a repetitive thud, each sending up a corona of steam as the ice melted and the underlying sea boiled. Over a minute later, he finally lowered his shaking arms, fighting to keep his eyes open, to sink slowly to the ground and not just fall uncontrollably. That's all I've got, he gasped, taking in heaving breaths. I hope you enjoyed that, bastard. Why's there always have to be someone with a god complex? Especially now, with our strongest fighters off planet. Hopefully, though, that did the... He felt the enormous key approaching again, barely diminished. No, it's impossible. And yet, Willow floated through the air towards them, a flickering energy barrier encircling his hulking frame. It blinked a couple of times, then dissipated. Can't leave the shield on for too long, he reminded himself. It drains too much power. Then again, they don't know that. He hadn't activated it instantly, though, and wasn't exactly unharmed. Scorch marks covered his body. Cracks were visible in a couple of places and sparks hissed from exposed wires. However, nothing major was damaged and his power was as overwhelming as ever. Damn it? Tien pounded his fist into the ground. I put all my energy into that attack and for nothing. He looked up, hearing Nail's feet tap against the ground as he landed next to the exhausted fighter. Hey, you. The Namek called. Dr. Willow. It's Willow? The robotic menace grumbled. I don't care. Nail growled. You clearly have the upper hand in this battle. Why do you want to move to one of our bodies if we can't beat your robot there? Fool, you think I enjoy inhabiting this ugly metal shell? I want to walk, feel, breathe as a human being. Then my dominion over the planet will be truly fulfilling. Wait, you want to be human and yet you want to take over my body? Nail scratched his head. You blind or something? Do not mock me, Willow snarled. You're close enough. And your power is unchallenged by all save myself, you'll make the perfect host. That's pretty funny, actually. Dean chuckled. He actually thinks he's going to win. Hey, even if you beat us, Goku will be back soon. And let me tell you, you or I'd be nothing compared to him. You won't stand a chance. Small consolation to you if you're dead, Willow retorted, not really believing that there was such a person. Better not tell him about the Dragon Balls. Tien decided, merely smiling confidently. Well, I wouldn't be too sure. Still. Nail shifted to a combat stance. All things considered, I'd prefer not to die. Any ideas? Nothing coming, but if you need any help, we're here. Launch landed behind them, Krillin and Yamcha by her side. I've got one idea. Tien stood up shakily. A spirit bomb? What? Krillin frowned, skeptical. That was only barely enough to beat Vegeta the first time we fought him. What exactly is it gonna do to somebody stronger than Cooler? This one's gonna be different, Tien promised. Trust me. But it'll take time. All right. Nail nodded. I'll be the first line of defense. I'll keep him busy as long as I can. You guys stay around Tien. If I go down, hold him off. Got it? Nods of assent. Good. This had better work, Tien. Trust me. Tien raised his hands to the sky as Nail took off, closing all three eyes and trying to calm himself. Only when you are at peace with yourself can you form a spirit bomb, King Kai's words echoed back to him. Purity of heart is paramount. Any taint and the energy will reject you. Clearing his mind, he began to gather energy into the attack. First what little energy he had left, then working outwards, scouring the entire planet, taking a tiny amount of energy from every human, plant and animal, and not just living things. Even the ocean, the rocks and the wind had a basic but vast supply of spiritual energy. Planet Earth, please share your energy with me. Nail made the first strike, a glancing blow that staggered Willow back, but the scientist struck back with deadly force, his elbow driving the breath from Nail's lungs. Willow made another lunge, but Nail flew over his head, aiming a spinning kick at a vulnerable joint. He hit dead on, completely severing Willow's whipcord tail, but even before it splashed down into the ocean, Willow was spinning around, kicking Nail away. The warrior Namex had span, but he fought to stay in the air. This is no good, I can't keep taking these hits or I won't even last a minute against this guy. He began to whirl around Willow like a one-man swarm of bugs, trying to keep him off balance with hit-and-run strikes. All right. Dean smiled, satisfied. I've drawn energy from the planet Earth, but like Krillin said, this just won't cut it anymore, I just hope this works. Stretching his arms out, he expanded his mind's eye, visualizing other worlds, planets near Earth, stars and solar systems adjacent to Earth's. The stars. So much energy in them, it's incredible. And yet normally we can't sense it at all. But I've got to be careful not to take too much from anything. Just a tiny proportion from each, every living thing, every planet, every star. He grinned, feeling the rush of energy. Yes. That's it. Give me the power to beat this guy. Gah. Willow made the latest in a series of unsuccessful swings. Enough of this? I can see you're trying to stall me, whatever those four are up to, I'll put an end to it. No. Nail shouted, eyes widening as Willow raised both arms, energy building around each. He began to fire a barrage of energy beams, smashing through the ground and into the ocean floor, carving a line towards the human fighters below. Nail raced to intercept, just managing to reach a blast aimed at the glacier his friend stood on in time. He crossed his arms in front of his chest, pushing all his ki to the front to form an impromptu shield. The impact was vicious, but he withstood it, then realized there was one final beam, already shooting past him, aimed straight at the group. He appeared alongside it with a desperate burst of super speed, swinging his leg around and hoping to deflect the attack with a kick. No time to reconcentrate my ki, just have to hope I'm tough enough. Ah. The beam detonated, going no further. However, when he looked down, his stomach lurched, his leg was gone. Completely destroyed? My body might be going into shock, I don't even feel pain yet. Dr. Wheelo hovered towards him. Impressive. You saved your friends, but lost a limb. How unfortunate. I guess you won't be able to fight anymore. Don't count on it. Hissing with pain, Nail regenerated his leg, the new limb bursting messily out of the stump of the old. Regenerating, unfortunately, always hurt even more than losing the body part in the first place, and in this case both pains hit him at once as his brain finally registered the injury. Interesting, but it seems like that took a lot out of you. You can't have much fight left. Nail scowled. We'll see. Hey, Dean. Yamcha asked. You were glowing with power at first, but it stopped, where'd it go? Where's the spirit? He glanced up. He looked up again, blinking. Spirit bomb. Wow. Krillin gaped, noticing the ball of twinkling blue energy floating high above their heads. That thing must be 50 meters across. Nothing could survive that. He looked anxiously over at Wheelo. Hey, it doesn't look like Nail can last much longer, Tien. Throw it. No. Dean grunted. It's not enough. I need more time. Yeah, well, whoa. Krillin spun around as a heavy impact heralded Nail's half-conscious body hurtling ungracefully towards them. Krillin jumped to intercept, caught Nail, and laid him on the ground next to Tien. All right, looks like it's up to us, Yamcha, with me. Launch, you be our last line of defense. If you see Yamcha or me make an opening, though, take it. Got it. Launch grinned. Kick his ass. Oh, because that's likely, Yamcha moaned, following Krillin through the air towards Wheelo. Kaioken, HAA. They shouted in unison. Yamcha went straight for the transparent brain covering, firing a ki blast from each hand as a distraction, then drawing back his fist in preparation to try cracking the weak point. Wolf Fang nothing. Wheelo spat, surrounding his body with pulsing red energy before activating his thrusters and powering forwards into Yamcha, knocking him aside as easily as swatting an insect. Okay, here goes. Krillin twisted under Wheelo's defenses, planting a two-handed punch in his abdomen and throwing his energy out around him to send the doctor reeling away. Gotcha. Now, while he's off guard, he focused all his boosted power into his hands, then released it in one blast. Kaiohamaheya? The light outshone everything for a brief moment, then vision flooded back, revealing. He dodged it. Krillin moaned. I guess that's the weakness of only powering up the technique. If my body doesn't have the same boost, I lose speed. He must have taken advantage of that. Enough of you? Wheelo lunged, grabbing Krillin around the waist in one huge claw. I've had enough of all of you. Arcs of electricity surged down his arm, passing into Krillin and racking his body. After a few seconds of the punishing attack, he tossed the small fighter away, floating down to the ground and facing Tien. Launch was nowhere to be seen. The three-eyed warrior stood resolutely, hands raised. I've gathered all I can from the surrounding planets and stars, but it still isn't enough. His power's enormous. What are you doing? Wheelo wondered aloud. Raising your arms like that, what are you hoping to achieve, I wonder? He paused his implacable advance. Something stupid, no doubt. Whatever it is, you don't have much time. I'm not a patient man. Or are you surrendering? Tien stared down the gigantic robot, trying to stay calm. Nail, Krillin, Yamcha, launch, whatever energy you have left, give it to me now. Lend me your power. Just how long are you going to stand there? Wheelo demanded. Are you frozen to the spot or something? Hehehe, just wait. Tien smiled. You'll see? I have no time for this foolishness. Wheelo roared, raising an arm and charging up energy. Once you're dead, there'll be nothing to stop me transferring to the green one's body. I know he's still alive. Crap. Tien winced. Can't dodge it without losing control of the spirit bomb, and if that happened, it could destroy the whole planet. Do your worst. If you insist. Wheelo fired, and Tien shut his eyes, bracing himself. But before it hit home, Launch darted out from behind cover, throwing herself in the path of the attack. With a monumental effort she managed to block it, but the impact sent her sprawling, most of her energy spent. Heh. Wheelo chuckled. I knew she'd be around somewhere. I reckoned that was the most effective way of drawing her out. Now you've got nobody left to help you? He paused. You still haven't moved. What kind of strategy do you call this? Why so impatient? Tien chided, feeling a sudden flow of energy from his friends. Nail, Krillin, Yamcha, Launch, all were just awake enough to pour their last reserves of energy into the spirit bomb. Just a few more seconds. Please, give me that. Don't you like surprises? Don't play games with me. Wheelo whipped his arm around at high speed, sending a shockwave through the air that hurled Tien away like a ragdoll. He bounced painfully, rolled and managed to land upright, leaving skid marks on the ice. Slowly, he stood again, raising his arms. Wheelo shuddered with anger. Stop doing that. I will no tolerate. Tien's eyes snapped open wide. Now. You want me to stop? Wanna know what I'm doing? What? You're done. Tien shouted, swinging both arms down and letting the spirit bomb fly down towards Wheelo's robotic body. What are you talking about, waving your arms around like? Wheelo paused, noticing that the area around him was getting considerably brighter. Slowly, he looked up. That's not the sun. He realized with a jolt of surprise the speed with which it was hurtling at him. Damn it. He quickly immersed his body in red energy, releasing it all up at the spirit bomb. There was a brief struggle between the two opposing energies, but the spirit bomb finally overwhelmed Wilow's counterattack, colliding with his arm and detonating. Tien threw himself to the ground, shutting his eyes against the brilliant flare of light. Earth's energy, more from the surrounding planets, and ours, too. This has to work. Slowly, the light faded. The smoke began to clear. Those still able to stand, only Tien and Krillin, slowly approached, warily reaching out with their key senses. Suddenly, Tien took a step backwards, fear clouding his face. No. It can't be. And yet, though it was less than half what it had been before, Dr. Wilow's key was still very much there. Oh, come on. Krillin moaned. We've thrown everything we've got at this guy, what gives? Willow now stood fully revealed. His raised blocking arm had been completely destroyed, loose wires hanging from the empty shoulder socket. Cracks ran up and down his body. But, damaged as he was in a much better state than his enemies. What I want to know, Tien said wearily, is how some random scientist out of nowhere can build a robot that's more powerful than we are. He noticed a small figure, energy masked, rising slowly up behind Willow and stealthily gliding towards him, and decided to keep the doctor talking for a while. I keep my eyes and ears open, Willow said as he approached. I've observed many things, and your battles were among them. They haven't exactly been easy to miss. I've salvaged technology from battle sites, scanned your abilities and figured out the source of your elusive key powers. It's all thanks to you, in fact. My bio-warriors that you encountered earlier were previous attempts to create a being that could defeat you. It seems, with this robot body, I have finally succeeded. Dr. Gero called. He wants his shtick back, Tien thought glumly to himself. Still, that does explain the Cyberman-looking things and the guy with instant transmission. Well, I wouldn't say that. For one thing, the spirit bomb made an opening in his armor, that shoulder's now a massive weak point. Cracks cobwebbed out from the stump. Oh, really? Willow gloated. Well, even that last attack failed to finish me, though I am surprised that it managed to overpower my planet geyser weapon. I was going to save that to just wipe out the planet if all else failed, but I was forced to use it just to survive. In any case, though, you failed. And I've won. And with that? He raised a foot, aiming to crush Tien. Goodbye? I think someone wants to have a word with you, Tien said. What? Word? Willow paused, totally confused. What are you? Tianzin? Krillin, just now hovering silently inches away from Willow, let loose the very last dregs of his energy into forming one final attack, throwing it directly into the weak point on Willow's shoulder. It carved into the massive wires, slicing deep into the robotic body and causing the cracked segments to explode outwards. Uncontrolled electricity hissed and spat up and down Willow's body, his limbs twitching and jerking. Krillin wasn't done, though. Guess who picked up a trick from Cell? He swung his arms upwards, remotely directing the disc, sending it up towards the brain compartment. The robots inside, nowhere near as well protected as the outside, was no defense. The Kienzan flew up and up, inevitably slicing through into the section that housed Willow's disembodied brain. And no. You can't do this to me. No. And, at this point, his screams of protest stopped as Kienzan and brain met. The result was extremely messy, and it was fair to say the Kienzan won. All his strength gone, Krillin sank to the ground, falling onto his back. We won? Yeah. Tien sat down next to him, exhausted. Who needs super science, eh? They sat for a minute or two in silence, enjoying the peaceful quiet. Then, however, a loud creaking noise emanated from Willow's robot's legs, and it began to fall. Say, is it just me, Krillin said slowly, or is he falling towards that mountain there? Yeah. Tien agreed, nodding. And would it be fair to say that the impact is going to, thud, to disturb that quite unstable-looking mountainside of snow? It would. Krillin sighed. Let me guess. You're not in any state to fly either, huh? Abruptly, and just as the avalanche began to roll towards them, Dend and Mr. Popo appeared again. Hey, you did it. Dend cheered, oblivious. You won. I'm so glad. Ignoring him, Tien answered Krillin's question. No, I am not. Krillin sighed again, closing his eyes and resigning himself to a cold and wet few minutes in the near future as the wall of snow crashed into them. Wonderful.